Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Testing. Hello, my name is Sally Jean McRae.
You are way louder than your
Most
co-host.
people on the planet.
Do a little Peter Piper for me.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickles.
Peckles? On the podcast.
On the podcast. Are we on?
We're on. We are live.
Do we need to do a formal introduction every time we do these?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Do you think our listeners care? Like, are they looking and really hoping for this incredible introduction? I'm curious.
I don't think so. I think you should just cut to the chase.
Dive in, right?
Dive in, yes.
People don't want to hear all the other stuff. They just want you to get started on the episode. That's why they push play in the first place.
That's it.
So do I even need to introduce myself? I mean, if you are scrolling through podcasts and you have no idea who I am and you blindly push play, well, hello, welcome to the Choose Strong podcast. I am your host, Sally McRae, and I am joined here today by my husband, Eddie McRae. Welcome, Eddie.
Hey, thanks for having me back. It was such a blast last time. I just couldn't wait to get back on the mic for another episode. I'm thrilled to be here. I am actually excited. It's fun.
I'm excited to have you. I mean, what a lot of people don't know is you spent many years behind a microphone singing. Should
true.
we talk about your many years singing and playing guitar?
I don't think. No, we don't need to.
Different
talk
episode?
About it. Yeah.
Different
let's
episode.
Save,
but
let's
yes,
save that.
Eddie can sing and play guitar. In fact, he surprised me on our wedding day. He had written a song. He wrote a song that was our vows and brought his guitar up. And he's turning red right now.
No.
He doesn't have a very happy look on his face.
So about the episode for today.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with our episode. I promise. I do know how to stay on task. No, I don't. If you've ever listened to me in any other podcast when I was a guest, I usually have a lot of tangents. But I will say thank you for being here today. A really, really quick little sponsor clip. This show is brought to you today by my app, the Sally McRae Strength app. You can check out the link in the show notes if you want to learn more about that. But basically, it's a whole lot of information in there for you, some great programs, some training, and gosh, I'm not doing a good job promoting my app right now, Ed. Basically, my app is helping runners, all athletes, endurance athletes, learn how to become stronger, less prone to injury. There's a great community there, but you'll also see lots of workouts, lots of programs, day-by-day programs that you can do. So for those of you that have downloaded the app, thank you so much. For those of you that are interested, check it out. Eddie, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are diving into your questions, your comments. What we've done, we've compiled a short little list of some of the most frequently asked questions in the last few weeks, really. And we're going to answer them. So Eddie's going to go ahead and start us out. He's going to read the questions, and he'll probably add his commentary. Like I said in my last show, he talks quite a bit. But I do love what you have to add, so thanks for being here.
Oh, yes. You're welcome. All right. You ready?
Yes.
All right. So the first question is, I have a big frame, 6'2", 196 pounds at my lightest weight. Is endurance running too much impact?
Great question. I get this a lot, especially when I have an opportunity to lead like a group run somewhere, whether I'm visiting a running shop or traveling. I have people that will approach me and make those kind of comments, and they will say, hey, I'm a big person, so I'm not going to be moving too fast, or, you know, I only do a little bit of running, or I love to run, but I only do this, or I don't go this far. And here's my take on that. A coach's perspective, and also a personal opinion. Your frame is not a handicap. So the size that you are, how tall you are, that is what you're supposed to be. And so when we put on weight, let's say like we put on unhealthy weight, well, that is going to stress out our body during any activity we do, not just running. So I think we can agree there is a healthy weight for us, and it's different for all of us. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the charts that are out there. I don't think that they're accurate. And I think what is important to know is that you should first find out what a healthy weight is for you and your body. And one of the ways that helped me was getting a DEXA scan because I found that the charts, like the BMI to body weight ratio, would say that I was overweight because being 5'6" and almost 150 pounds would often put me in that category. So I thought, well, I know that muscle weighs more than fat, and I am fit, and I run far, and I lift weights, and I feel great. So I'm curious, where is this information coming from? And it's so general too. So I went and I got a DEXA scan, and a DEXA scan, it's like this van that drives around. This is the company that I used, but it was this van that drives around and usually park in front of like a CrossFit or like a local gym, and you can just come into the van and they have the big machine right there, and a guy just has you lay down on this platform, keep your clothes on and everything, but you just lay down on this platform. And they scan your whole body, and they're able to look at like your brown fat. They're able to look at your muscle mass, your bone mass, everything. Your weight. It is so awesome. So I've gotten those done a couple times, and they were so helpful because I was able then to see that my body, even though it was heavier than I would say most competitive endurance athletes, that a lot of my body weight was coming from muscle. And so for me, that made me have a better perspective of myself as opposed to, hey, I'm this tall and this heavy, I can't do this activity. So I'd be really careful about just looking at your height and your weight and just assuming that it's too much impact for you. I think that the body that we are given, that we can become strong and efficient in the body that we have. I see a lot of runners of all different sizes doing ultras, marathons, all different sports. And so I wouldn't limit yourself when there is pain when you're running. So if you're feeling a lot of pressure on your joints and your body just doesn't feel good when you're running, you can change that. So, and sometimes it does come with a healthy weight loss. Maybe there is a little bit of extra weight that you could lose, but sometimes it's just strengthening the areas around the joint. So we can't always attribute it to, oh, it's just the size of my frame. We got to look at the muscle mass and how are you taking care of your body on a day-to-day basis. Not only that, consistent training builds your body up in such a way it starts to get used to the activity. You become more efficient in what it is that you're doing when you practice it daily. So this goes for anybody of any size. When you set out to run your first mile, let's say you've never run before, you run a mile, it might be very difficult for you to run a mile. And then as you stay consistent in practicing and training to run that mile, pretty soon your body adapts to it, it gets stronger, and then the mile becomes easy for you. Then you try the 2 miles, 3 miles. I remember this in my journey when I first started endurance running. I remember to this day, the first time I ran 6 miles without stopping. It was such a big deal. And in fact, it was local. It was around here, just in my neighborhood. I ran to a gas station that's called the Extra Mile, and I started crying because I was so happy that I had made it that far. I'll never, ever, ever forget it, running 6 miles without stopping. Now, for those of you that don't know me or my running journey, I wasn't born an ultramarathon. I wasn't always running 100 miles. It's been a long journey, but I built up to that. See, as I built up into ultra running, everything that I did would bring a new feeling to my body. So yeah, 20 milers used to really, really wear me out. I used to be very sore. It didn't feel great, but I conditioned my body, I stayed consistent with the training, and I got stronger, and I became more efficient in that distance. And now a 20-mile run is just a weekday run for me. And I'll tell you what, I don't think I ever thought I would be saying that, but but it is amazing what our bodies can do. So to the gentleman that wrote in, thank you so much for writing in this question, because I do think a lot of listeners can connect with this. And I talk to people all the time that tell me that their body is not fit, or it's too big or uncoordinated or too old or this or that. And so they cannot do endurance running. And I really believe that unless you have like a true handicap that inhibits you from the action of running, you can train your body to do anything. And when you take care of your body, and I'm talking about you're sleeping well, you're eating and drinking well, you're getting to the gym and you're getting your body strong and you're working on that cardio, I think you'll surprise yourself. So keep after it. Do your best in your training. I really believe that your frame is not too big to be an endurance runner.
So when someone's trying to find their kind of healthy weight as an athlete, how does nutrition play into that? Mm-hmm. And are there any restrictive diets that you advise?
Yeah, this is really good. I feel like we could probably talk about this for an entire episode. Food is tricky. I think the diet industry, people talking about weight loss, body image, I realize there's a lot of sensitivities and triggers just surrounding it. So I do my best to be thoughtful in what it is that I'm saying. I also want to be very truthful. And this is why I think it's important that I stay vulnerable as well, because I think so many of the questions that people send in, I'm like, yeah, I've been there before. I've asked those exact same questions. This is what I did. So it's important people know I am not a doctor. And so I'm not giving any medical advice right here. But I will say, having coached so many people, and also just having an opportunity to, work with athletes both in the soccer world and in the running world, it's pretty incredible the stories that I have heard and, the questions that people ask me about their own bodies and how they will, approach food in order to be a better athlete. And I think that there is something to be said about restrictive diets. But I will say this. The most important thing is, the word die is the first 3 letters of diet. I do not believe in being on a diet for your entire life. I think that there is something positive about having a restrictive diet for a very set period of time. So you choose it like, okay, for 2 weeks, and I am being very specific about this, for 2 weeks, I am going to eliminate dairy to see if that has a positive effect on me. Those are the kind of diets that I would encourage people to do as it relates to, because they don't feel good in their training. If someone feels like, hey, like I put on 50 pounds this year because of COVID and the stress, and I'm just sitting around all the time and I do not feel good. I need to take this weight off because it's hurting my joints. I'm not sleeping well. Yeah, that does come with weight gain. And I think we all need to be honest about that. That is just those are the results of putting on weight. So this isn't fat shaming at all. This is understanding there is a weight in your own personal body, which I don't know what that is. I'm not going to say, hey, if you're 5'4", this is what you need to be. I am not saying that at all. Because like I said, everyone's different. Your muscle mass is different. Your frame size is different. I'll tell you what, and I share about my size all the time. And I do this as a way to be vulnerable with my listeners and to encourage them. I'm 5'6", 147 pounds. I have very high muscle mass. I would consider my frame to be more of a medium to large frame. That's just what I am. But what is so interesting is that up until I was about 16, I was very petite. I was very small. I was known for that. I remember my freshman year in high school, people always picking me up. And I was approached by the cheerleading squad because they wanted me to be one of those cheerleaders that they throw in the air because I was so small. And I think back on that, how I have experienced with what it feels like to be very little and then to also feel like I'm really big. And so understanding that our bodies change, and in different seasons, and depending on what we're training for or the stress in our life, our body is going to adapt to that. So if we once were very active and then we stop and we just sit around and we're not really paying attention to what we eat, weight will come on and it might not feel good. And that's just being honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. Do you feel good? Is that where you want to be? Do you feel good walking around? Are you sleeping well? What's your energy like? I think our weight, we just have to talk about it differently. And so when I talk about diets ever with people, I really try to be careful about the idea of restricting food in a negative way for a negative reason. If the one purpose is because I need to fit in these jeans and I need to look better and I need to look skinny, that's actually a really empty goal. The goal needs to be greater. We should approach food with the idea of food is my fuel. It makes me feel strong. I need it. I need it throughout the day. And if I'm running 20 miles a day, I need more than other people do that are maybe only running 2 miles a day. So when we look at food as fuel instead of punishment or something that makes us feel bad or something that we need to restrict, then that's just going to turn into a really negative cycle throughout our entire lives. I was just chatting with someone the other day about my mom, and what I realize is I don't really remember a time in the short period of her life that I got to have her that she wasn't on a diet. She was always dieting. I mean, she gave birth to 5 children. She was very busy with the kids. She did like to exercise. She would walk and ride her bike, but she always felt like she had weight to lose. And so that's what I grew up watching, a mom that was always discontent with her body, that was always on a diet, always restricting. And I saw how it played out both in her self-confidence, what it did to her mentally. And I definitely don't want to be that to my children too. I want to be someone that, I want to talk to my kids about food. And I do. Both my kids are athletes, and I always talk to both Isaiah and Mackenzie, say, food is your fuel. You have to eat. And so when it comes to restrictive diets, again, I'll go back and say, if you're doing it as a way to see if you'll feel better, not everyone feels great eating a lot of gluten. Not everyone feels great having sugar in their diet, having dairy in their diet. Yes, experiment. Diets are supposed to end. I had an athlete a few months ago who shared with me, he said, you know what, Sally, I'm always at this certain weight and I always feel great when I run. But, work got very busy, kind of the COVID story. I'm sitting a lot more and I put on weight and I just don't feel good. Can you help me? And I said, this is something that I have seen has helped with people for many years. I'm not going to tell you a certain diet to do, but I will say, get out a journal, a few pieces of paper, and for the next 3 days, or you can do a full week. I thought a full week's kind of annoying, and not a lot of people can do a full week, but you're going to write down every single thing that goes into your mouth, from liquid, even if you're grabbing Cheerios off your kid's, high chair, you got to write down every single thing that goes in your mouth. Do that for 3 days. Preferably do it like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because you have like some work day in there, and then you have the weekend and some social. You usually kind of hit all of it. And I don't want to see it. I don't need to see what that list is, but I want you to keep it for yourself, and I want you to be honest with yourself. This is about you being honest with yourself. He actually kept it, I think it was for 5 days, and he came back to me and he said, wow, I didn't realize how much I was eating. I think I get distracted when I'm sitting and watching TV. I think I get distracted when I'm at my computer, or when I'm out with people. I don't realize I was eating so much more. So I then said, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I want you to be specific about what you're eating. I want you to plan your meals. Just plan your meals for the next 2 weeks. And I want every single meal to be at least 50% plant-based. And I'm talking about just fruits and veggies, put that in there. I'm not saying restrict food. Just make sure that your plate, when you put it on the table, even if you have a big old bacon cheeseburger on there, that the other half is a salad. And I want you to pay attention to how much water you're having. Within a couple weeks, he came to me. He's like, wow, I've already lost a little weight. My energy is so much better. I just feel better. I'm paying attention. I'm more motivated. And there's a few things that happen here. So one is just that he begun to actually think about what he was eating. He began to actually make it a part of his day to plan his meals, to be thoughtful about his food, and to understand that by fueling his body with healthy food, that he was going to feel better in his runs, and he did. Never did I ask him to tell me how much he weighed. I never asked him to send me, a before and after picture. Or I never even asked him about what it was that he was eating. I didn't even want to see his menu. I didn't ask him to do a certain diet. I don't condone just one diet. For me personally, I really believe that if we are thoughtful about food, that we appreciate it and we understand that what we put in is going to affect us in every way, then we will actually start to feel a lot better and we will naturally make better, healthier choices. We can get healthy without talking about weight loss. If that's a trigger for any of my listeners, I'm very sensitive to that too. I understand it. Like I said earlier, having grown up with a mom who is always trying to lose weight, always on a diet, I understand how hard that can be. But flip the perspective. Choose the stronger mindset. And the stronger mindset is today I'm going to eat in order to feel good about walking around, about getting my workout in, about having the energy for my family, about having the energy for my work. And when you base your food decisions on those things instead of beating yourself up, oh my gosh, I'm so fat and I'm sluggish and I have no willpower, your perspective changes. The stronger mindset is be good to yourself, put in good food. And for the person that wrote in about the restrictive diets, hopefully that was helpful to you. Thank you so much for writing in. Eddie, is there anything that you want to add to that?
You know what? The one thing that I just heard you say is that I should probably go take back my nerd ropes that are waiting for me in the kitchen.
Okay. I don't know anybody that loves nerd rope more than Eddie. But here's the thing. I love the nerd clusters. Okay, this is candy, but we've now completely pivoted. Now we're talking about candy. I feel like we're little kids when it comes to our candy selection. But yeah, you can usually find nerd rope, or nerd clusters in our house somewhere.
Back to what you were saying. One of the questions that I get the most about you, once people find out that you run 100-mile races, they always ask, what does she eat? Like what does she eat during the day? What does she eat during the week? And I always say that the reason you run 100 miles is because you get to eat a whole carton of ice cream, and we don't, as we get to watch you, because that would not make us feel good. No, but seriously, that question is asked a lot. What do you eat? And I think a lot of the runners that interact with you, they ask what your nutrition is, right? Like in terms of what do you eat during your long runs and stuff like that?
Yeah, we can chat about that. I mean, I probably eat the majority of my meals with you.
True.
From the time that we were dating. I mean, I guess even when we were friends in college, Eddie and I have shared many, many meals together. Eddie and I we've tried lots of different diets together. And one of the reasons why I've tried almost every single diet that was out there purely as experiment. And I started doing that back like in 2008, 2009, because I was running a women's fitness company. It was like this outdoor boot camp and endurance running company. And I did that for several years. I loved it. But what I realized is that all the women were asking me about diets all the time. And every year there is a new fad. Every year someone is coming out with, this is the diet that you need. This is going to deliver the results you want. So because of that, I was like, I'm just going to try them all. So I would do all of these diets. I do it for like 1 or 2 weeks just to see what it felt like, what it was about. I'd read the books, I'd get on the websites, and I would really experiment with, what was going on.
What was the one that you always would fry, those burgers?
Atkins.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my God, that was literally 20 years ago.
That was brutal.
Because that was the first year we were married. And me and my older sister did it together, you remember?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. People listening, do you remember when Atkins was all a craze? I would seriously make hamburger patties morning, noon, and night. And Eddie was like, what are you doing? And I'd put cream cheese on top.
I mean, it smelled good like for the first 2-3 days, but then it was like, jeez.
Yeah, it was brutal. After a while, I was like, how is this? This is not healthy. And I can't eat like this for the rest of my life. So that's always been my thing. When it comes to diet, I just think about, can I eat this way for the rest of my life? What is the way that I can eat year round and still feel good and still feel strong about my body. So yeah, there have been times where I've tried different things. And I think even when I first started in ultra, that was when Scott Jurek had his, the veganism was really big, and I really looked up to him, and I still do. I really admire him. He's an incredible athlete and human. But I thought, I need to be a vegan. That's the way to eat. And so I bought the books and tried the recipes, and I'll tell you, I actually went back to it 3-4 times and not once ever felt great on it. So I don't think that there's one diet that is perfect for everybody. I think that what's important is that you experiment with yourself and make it fun. I think what's important is to not beat yourself up when it comes to food. Even if you do feel unhealthy and you don't feel great and you're at a place that that, gosh, I've never been this heavy, or I've never been this unhealthy, I don't like it. You have to allow yourself grace in all of it. Look at food as a gift, because it really is, especially if you live in Northern America, for example. I mean, most of the people here are surrounded by a lot of food choices and an abundance of food. And I will never, ever take that for granted, having traveled around the world, both Eddie and I, and working with orphans and visiting some very impoverished areas in the world. You come back to America and it's eye-opening. All of the varieties of food and how it is just so easily available to us. So when I chat with people about food choices and diets and nutrition, I like to look at food as a gift. It is good and you need it. And so when I share about what I eat, my favorite thing to tell people is I genuinely eat everything. I really do. But here's my secret. When I am training for a race and I look at my training calendar, a good, well thought out training program, it has phases. So it's important that you understand that the closer you get to your race, if you have a well scheduled program, you're going to be in peak training for only a handful of weeks. When you're in peak training leading right up to your race, that's when you are in your best shape. And for some athletes, myself included, that's usually also when I tend to be like my lightest. I feel like my leanest is within those few weeks, because I know I'm about to go and race and my training is very intense. However, that level of intensity in my training, I cannot maintain in a healthy way throughout the year without getting injured or completely overtraining. And that's a great way to approach eating. So the more intense my training becomes, the more critical I am of what it is that I eat, because the intense training demands everything of me and I feel everything. My food sensitivity goes way up the more intense my training is, the more miles, the more I'm pushing my body. It's so important that every single thing that is going into my body is just of utmost quality, and I'm really keeping the junk down. Now, around the holidays, when I'm in my off season and I'm just doing like aerobic training and getting in the gym and lifting weights, and I truly am allowing my body rest from the intense training, I do put on a little weight. And I'm fine with that. I think it took me a lot of years to be okay with that. But when I understood the idea of a healthy training cycle, I then began to understand that that's why I've been able to compete at such a high level for so many years, is because I let my body go through those cycles. So when it comes to eating, I'm also gracious with my eating. So I do not restrict myself every single day, 365 days of the year. But I do believe that the older I've gotten, I also need to be careful about what I'm eating way more than when I was in my 20s. So it's different for everyone. I used to be able to eat Taco Bell and Oreos and go play 90 minutes in a college soccer game. Feel totally fine. Eddie, do you want to comment on that? I see a huge smile on your face.
Well, mine was like Dr. Pepper and
Jack in the Box tacos.
But if we're being honest.
Anyway, I feel like we could talk about this for a while, but I will finish because I know people say, what is it that Sally eats? What is her diet? What does she eat while she's training? So I'm going to be very specific. So I am a creature of habit, and when I find stuff that works for me, I stick to it. So for me in the morning, it's pretty much the same thing. It's sourdough bread, couple eggs, slice of cheese, sometimes avocado. It's pretty hearty. I like it because I usually have had either a workout already in the morning at the gym, like a strength workout, and I usually only have coffee before I do that. I don't feel great eating right before because I'm up so early. 4 a.m., I don't want to eat. So I do a pretty basic strength or mobility or core workout at the gym. I come home, I have breakfast, and it's usually a pretty big breakfast. If I don't have eggs on toast, then I eat steel-cut oats, and I like to blend in with the steel-cut oats a little bit of brown sugar, and I'll put in some frozen berries, frozen mixed berries. And I eat a pretty big bowl of it. And the reason why is when I do the steel-cut oats with the berries, I then am usually either going to the mountains or out for a long 15, 20-mile run for that day. So I like to do the steel-cut oats for that. Lunch is kind of up in the air. I like veggie burgers. I like salads with protein. I love protein shakes. And my protein shakes are pretty basic as far as I don't eat a lot of dairy outside of like cheese here and there. So I use some type of milk alternative. And I've been experimenting with different protein powders, but I'll do a lot of berries. I'll do some spinach in there, a banana, pretty big protein shake. I eat fruit throughout the day. I also love hummus and cut up veggies, so I do a lot of that. And then dinner is kind of all over the place as far as what I make because I'm cooking for my family too. So I can't really be a creature of habit for dinner too often. And sometimes dinner tends to be one of my biggest meals. So I will do anything from tacos to lasagna, spaghetti. You know, we'll do salmon. We like seafood in our family. So we'll do salmon. We do rice. It's kind of everything. I think we're all over the place as far as dinner goes. And then as far as sweets go, yeah, I'll limit myself. I do like sweets. I like donuts. I like ice cream. I like chocolate, all that stuff. But that doesn't mean I'm eating that all day, every day. And what I have found is that when I just allow myself to eat whatever I want, knowing that if I really am craving something, I can have it in moderation, I'm so much happier and I just feel better. Yes, my training volume is pretty high. Even if I ran 4, 5, 6 hours every single day, that does not mean I can eat whatever I want because food isn't just about how much weight you put on when you eat a lot of it. It's about how it makes you feel inside. And so if I'm eating a lot of empty calories, stuff that makes my blood sugar spike and then crash, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good for anyone. I've also learned to, eating too much before I go out and run, so I know when I need and where I need to put my big meals. Now, while I'm running, I do eat Spring Energy. I'll put the link in the show notes if you'd like to use my code, which is Sally, for a discount on it to try. But it's real food, so I eat that. But I'll also bring along real food when I run. So sometimes I'll bring raisins. I really like raisins. I read somewhere one time, I don't know if it's true, but they help keep cramping away. I like to bring peanut butter sandwiches, and every now and then I'll do like a bar, like a Lara bar, or like, what are those fig bars? I'll do like a fig bar or something. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, I don't. I think you said it in a nutshell, like you said. All right, moving on. Let's go to the next one. This next one's about strength training. This is a very common question also. It says, how and when can I incorporate strength training into my running program?
There is no short answer to this. And the reason why, as I'm putting on a coaching cap right now, is because it has to do with the individual's goals. I believe that everyone, regardless if you're a runner or not, everybody should be strength training. And the reason why is that the older we get, the more muscle mass we lose and bone density. And so you need to strength train just to be strong throughout your everyday activities. I do believe that every runner should be strength training. I have to be particular about this though. Strength training does not mean that you need to be throwing around big heavy weights. And I think that is what people think of when I talk about strength training, they're envisioning just this hardcore, gnarly, heavy, sweaty weight workout. And that's just not true. I like to start athletes at just body weight exercises, really giving them an assessment. There is a category in my app, in my Sally McRae app, that's called Running Foundations. And there's 3 very basic workouts in there. And they're very telling for runners. The feedback I've gotten through the app is that, wow, I did not realize how weak my right side was from my left. Oh my goodness, this was so much harder than I thought. I can't believe how sore I am. Now keep in mind, these are all exercises without weights, without resistance bands. This is, can you pick up your body and put it back down? Can you stand balancing on one foot and sit in a chair and stand back up on one foot? Things that we need to think about as runners, especially because running is balancing on one foot. So yes, we all need to be strength training. The strength training will bleed out into the rest of your life and benefit you in so many ways. It keeps you strong for your everyday activities. And I'll tell you what, as a side note, I'm always amazed at the number of people that tell me they got injured outside of running. And it's for things like, yeah, I threw my back out. I stepped off the curb wrong. I stepped off the ladder wrong. And, you know, it's a lack of stability, a lack of coordination, a lack of strength somewhere, and they're injured, and it wasn't during running. So when a runner says, do you think I should strengthen? Do you think it's important? I will always say yes, and I will never, ever deter from that. And when you look at the specifics of how to include it in your own programming, that is different for everyone. I train athletes who love to do CrossFit and they love to marathon, and they will never let go of either of those. And I think that's awesome. You can program that for somebody, for that specific person. I can sit down and chat with them about their goals and what it is that they want to do. And we can do CrossFit and we can run. It's awesome. It's actually a newer category that's popping up called the hybrid athlete, where it's a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of running. And I love it. I think it's so great that people understand you can do both. You can have muscle and you can run far, and you can be good at both of them. When you have a well-structured program, strength training will look different throughout the program. So let's say that you have a 4-month running program, in order with your end goal to be to race a road marathon. So your strength training in the first phase, your base training, you're probably going to do a little bit more because the goal is to have a solid foundation. The goal is to have strong roots, is what I like to call them, strong roots, so that as you move through your training cycle, that you have this strong body that's able to handle the more intense sessions. And this kind of translates to aerobic running. When we do our aerobic running, we are growing that endurance monster, that we are increasing the capacity to be able to handle the more intense workouts down the road. And those intense workouts are going to come in speed training, those hard hill workouts, those tempo runs, those track repeats, where you need to have stable, strong roots and a really big, massive aerobic base to be able to do those kind of workouts week after week. So I would imagine your strength training and aerobic training, they fit very nicely in the beginning of your cycle. The closer you get to your race, so 2-3 weeks out from your race, your strength training should start to look different, because you have to remember that, and this also depends on what kind of strength training you're doing. If you are lifting heavy weights, for example, 2 to 3 times a week, that requires recovery. There is a breakdown of the muscle, which you do not want right before race day. And so you'll start to lessen the intensity and the duration of your weightlifting as you get closer to your race. But you do want to keep in body strength exercises like donkey kicks and planks and a little bit of TheraBand work, just to make sure that you have that good alignment and that good stability as you go into your race. For me personally, I typically do not lift any weights or do any strenuous weight or body weight activities up to about like 7 to 9 days before I race. I'll do like some good core and like mobility type workouts, but I'm pretty much done lifting really heavy weights that week before the race because I want my body rested. I want it feeling strong. The goal is the run. I'm not going to do a weight lifting competition. And so the focus, the closer you get to your goal, will always be on the running. Interesting enough, though, when I come out of a race, so this past year, great example, when I finished Badwater 135, I was already back in the gym 4 days, maybe in 3 days, 3 or 4 days after the race. I did not run for a couple weeks, but I was in the gym doing mobility, doing core work, doing body weight exercises, some lighter dumbbells, and then I moved to heavier weights. And it was a really great way for me to assess my weaknesses and balances and to really see how my body handled that volume. So again, I could probably keep on talking about this for a while, but hopefully that's helpful for you. I would say check out my app because I do have a 30-day program and a 6-week program in there where I walk you through what strength training looks like. And both of those programs right now require very little weight work. So it's just dumbbells and resistance bands. But you're going to feel great, you're going to feel stronger, and you're going to get a really good glimpse at how you incorporate running and strength training together as a way to build a strong foundation, which in turn is going to make you a stronger runner and hopefully lessen your chance of injury.
I love it. All right. We have 4 more questions, Sal, and I'm going to challenge you.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Are you going to challenge me to answer like
You ready?
with a shorter response?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to give you 2 sentences max per answer here, per question.
Poor Eddie.
So
I'm just going to have you answer him.
No.
How about that?
So first one, just try to stick to two sentences. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of rapid fire, but you only get 2 sentences.
Oh, okay, rapid fire.
Do you train when you are sick? 2 sentences.
It depends on the illness.
That was 1 sentence.
More sentences?
Yeah, you had another one. You gave me 2. You only took 1.
It depends on the illness. Here's the thing. If it's a cold, because this is the most popular one, because obviously if you're puking your brains out, I'm not going to say, yes, get out there. Like your body needs to rest. And if you're not wise listening to your body, you are going to be sicker longer, have a relapse, and then you're not going to be able to train for longer. So here's the deal. When I have a head cold, yes, I keep training, but I don't do any intensity. I just do all easy aerobic runs, or I'm in the gym lifting weights or on the bike. So I do stuff, but the intensity is low and I really pay attention to my heart rate. If the cold has gone into my lungs, okay, this is where you need to be careful. I do not train. I really believe then I should be in bed and taking care of myself, and I just pay attention to that. Unfortunately, none of us are perfect human beings, and so it is important that we do allow ourselves that rest when something has gone into my lungs, which has been very rare throughout my life. But yeah, I've had bronchitis a couple times and strep throat. When that happens, no, I'm resting. I'm being good to myself, and it is what it is. I'll get back out there. But if it's a head cold, I'm still training, just no intensity.
Okay, that was a good answer, but that was more than 2 sentences. All right. All right, next one. Any advice on how to push yourself as a beginner while avoiding injury?
Ah, great question. I can't do 2 sentences.
Okay, 3.
Okay.
All right, just...
This is a difficult response to give just out there without actually knowing who this person is, because a beginner means 2 different things. So are you a beginner runner, or this is my first time in my life working out, or like I haven't worked out in years? When I talk to somebody who has been training pretty much their entire life and now they're going to try running, I would program them so differently than someone who is saying, hey, I haven't worked out, I'm out of shape, or I just never have done sports in my life. So we're programming differently there. So here's what I'm going to say. Anything that we do that is new requires our greatest respect. You are a student. With that in mind, you must grow graciously. I want you to think of like a first grade teacher when they're teaching their class how to read. Well, actually, now they will read like in preschool and kindergarten. But when they are teaching their students how to read, they do not hand them a copy of War and Peace and just say, all right, we're going to read from this book. No, it's very basic. You learn the letters first, then you put those 3 letters, 2 letters together. You learn the very basic sight words, and you grow and you build on there. You must do this with running. Regardless of what you see on social media, the best way to become a great runner, a strong runner, a runner with longevity, is not to run yourself into the ground. It is not running further and faster every time that you run. You must build. And new runners, I encourage to run based on time, not based on pace, and not based on mileage. It's a much more gracious way to approach your running. So if I said, hey, go out and run for 25 minutes, in your mind, it's, oh, I can move for 25 minutes. And then if I were to say and take walk breaks as needed, but make sure that they're structured. So if you're going to take a walk break, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to walk for 60 seconds, but I'm going to move this entire 25 minutes. You are more likely to come back and try running again. And the more consistent you are, the stronger you'll become, the more efficient you will become, and your body will start to adapt, and then you're going to start to run further because you're going to get stronger, both mentally and physically. So I'm going to stop there because I could talk on that the entire time, but we'll do a different podcast on that.
Thank you. Next one. What do you
Eddie
do?
is so bored right now.
No, I'm not. This is great.
You can chime in.
I just like to challenge you, and 2 sentences is very challenging for you. Those questions were loaded. I'm not going to lie.
Those were super loaded.
All right,
I'm
next
thinking
one.
like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie?
You could not do that in 2 sentences anyways. What do you do when you lose motivation?
Well, I could give a little motivational speech right here and say that, if you base everything you do on being motivated, then you are not going to do the things that you want to do all the time, because I don't believe that anybody feels 100% motivated all the time. And so it's important that when you do not feel like getting out and running, or you are focusing on how you feel. So you're focusing on the fact that you're stressed out, you're tired, there's a snowstorm outside, and you've had a really hard day either with the kids at home or at work. You don't feel like training. When we focus on how we feel and whether or not we feel motivated, then that could actually be kind of a roadblock for achieving our goal for that day. What I like to do when I don't feel like training, I don't feel like getting to the gym or putting in the work, I turn off the feelings and I focus only on the goal. And I will stop thinking about all the reasons. I literally turn my brain off and I just put on my shoes. The truth is, I can actually convince myself, you know what, this workout will be better if I just do it tomorrow. I'm just going to do it tomorrow. But the more that I make excuses for myself, the more that I talk to myself, there's going to be a lot of days that I'm not training. And one of the most powerful things that I've encouraged runners to do is don't even think about what workout you're supposed to be doing. So when they open up the app and they see, okay, Sally has me running 45 minutes and then I have to do these 5 strength exercises after, I don't even want you looking at the app before you head out. Just always have your workout clothes ready. Have your workout clothes ready. Have your running shoes out or whatever it is that you're going to be doing if you're going off to the gym. Have those ready. Put them on and just get out the door. Just step out the door. Because that is the hardest part. The hardest part is putting the workout clothes on and getting out the door. Once you're out the door, you have a new perspective. You are reminded of why you started in the first place. You are reminded that you are on a journey and that every single day matters. Every decision actually does matter. And you want a whole bunch of really good decisions. You want a whole bunch of completed workouts in that journey to the goal. You don't want excuses. We all make excuses. I've made excuses many times. I've had a lot of days that I don't want to train, a lot of days where I'm tired. As a mama and a business owner, goodness, I'd say about 50% of the time, and that's it, like right now for me, 50% of the time, am I energized and excited about my workouts. I have many reasons, not even excuses, to not train. So I want to encourage you, don't base your goals on the motivation that you find. Base your goals on what you want to achieve. What do you want? Not what do you want to feel. And what you want is far more important than feelings that change every single day. Because some days you're going to feel great, and other days you're going to feel terrible. So focus on the goal and not the feeling. I want to encourage you guys in that. And Eddie, why don't we just go ahead and wrap it up on that? I think that's a good note to wrap it up on. Thank you so much for being here, Eddie, and reading those questions. I'm sorry they were so long-winded. This wasn't as exciting for you as last episode.
No, that was awesome. It was really, that was some good information. Loved it.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you to our listeners for continually reaching out with your messages, with your insight, and of course, your kindness. So many of you have been so kind over the years and just really in encouraging me to do a podcast in the first place. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you being a part of the community. I'm your host, Sally McRae, joined by Eddie McRae. Keep choosing strong.